Hello and welcome to another anime lore and theory video. I'm Shangok, your host, and today we are going to take a closer look at what the Theocracy thinks about Ainz Ooal Gown and vice versa. But before we're going to take a closer look at any of this, let me quickly thank my Patreons for supporting this channel, and say my thanks to all users of the YouTube thanks function for making one-time donations. And with that said, let's take a look at the topic at hand. The Theocracy understandably did not hold the best opinion of Ainz Ooal Gown. Firstly, he is undead, and that alone would be sufficient to secure the perpetual contempt of Slane. Even though, as mentioned in other videos, they had considered coexisting with elves, or had even coexisted with them at one point, likely due to the fact that one of the 6 players who came into the new world having an elf avatar, and now being worshipped as one of the 6 great gods by Slane. However, they were certain that all undead were dangerous, life-despising monsters, with whom one cannot peacefully coexist. Furthermore, there's the fact that Ainz Ooal Gown, at least from the Theocracy's perspective, mocked and humiliated their representatives, who sat with Jerknif in the lodge of the arena of Arvintar, the capital of the empire. Ainz had seemingly trapped them with the help of his newest subordinate, Emperor Jerknif himself. In reality, Ainz had neither done nor even know about any of this, but while Jerknif believed that he had fallen into a devilishly clever trap, and was now with no choice left but to submit, since he now knows that he's been seen as a traitor by everyone present. The representatives of Slane were on full display for Ainz, and from their perspective, they could have died right then and there, and the disdain for Jerknif was evident on the faces of the Theocracy's envoys. In other words, the Theocracy not only felt threatened and caught off guard, but in addition to all of this, were also very insecure about Ainz Ooal Gown, because such strategies and maneuvers were unexpected. But with what happened on the Cuts Plain, where the 5 Dark Young trampled an entire army, at least the partner they had sacrificed in order to fuel the super tier spell, and this fitted so much more into the undead's character that the Theocracy would expect of him. However, the sheer power of Ainz Ooal Gown and the fact that he used the so-called magic of the gods, as Slane has to put it, aka super tier magic, not only instilled fear, but also because, as mentioned in the lore video about the astrologue of the 1,000 miles, and that she had a nervous breakdown, also required that the shock, the impact of this news had to be dampened before it was told to the other cardinals in full. But it also raised uncertainty and the suspicion within the Theocracy's cardinals that Surshana, their own god of death, and quite possibly also an undead overlord like Ainz, had returned. Only the fact that Rufus, the first follower of Surshana, had not revealed anything about this, and had not informed them about the return of one of their 6 players, led them to quickly dismiss this idea. However, just as soon as Ainz ruled peacefully over humans, Slane was also even more unsettled because, as mentioned earlier, the living in the Sorcerer Kingdom were better off than basically before, and they didn't expect this kind of statesmanship and policies when Eventel fell. Additionally, later the Kingdom of Riestais was completely obliterated, which, given the prior course of Ainz Ooal Gown's actions, came not only as a rather big surprise, but it also led to a sense of impending doom. Slane considered a conflict with Ainz Ooal Gown as almost inevitable, and therefore they sent human settlers to a remote region, so as to at least secure the survival of humanity, even if Slane should fall. And in the meantime, Slane also despaired that Ainz Ooal Gown did not seem to be arrogant and overconfident. He was someone who restrained himself and made compromises, formed alliances, and had managed to draw the majority of the states in this part of the continent to his own side. He is not arrogant or megalomaniacal, and the recklessness that usually accompanies egomaniacs and great power is completely absent here, simply because Ainz is thoughtful and considered. And under an emotional dampener, and without the weakness of arrogance, the Theocracy also lacked an important vulnerability that they could potentially exploit to keep Ainz Ooal Gown at bay. In other words, from the perspective of the Theocracy, there was not only a lot of contempt for Ainz, but also recognition of his strength and a creeping suspicion that he could have been Tsoshana, one of the 6 great gods. And while the reaction of the Theocracy was somewhat understandable, the reaction from Ainz Ooal Gown and Nezarec was a bit more unexpected. The Theocracy was not viewed as a major geopolitical rival. It was not seen as a fiend that had to be held in check, but rather as a source of actual, genuine danger for Ainz and the Great Tomb. Because everything one could initially learn about the Theocracy from the perspective of Nezarec practically screamed players, and especially at the beginning of the story, when Ainz Ooal Gown did not yet have all the information about the power level and strength of this region. The thought that there was a nation guided by players in close proximity seemed to be rather troublesome, because among other things, Ainz Ooal Gown suspected that players who had been in this world for centuries had also more than enough time to power level the citizens of their nation. And if everything had unfolded as he expected, it would have been a nightmare for Ainz and Nezarec. And the Great Tomb would likely have faced a serious peer threat. And there were signs that players were somehow connected to the Theocracy of Slane, prompting Ainz, Demiurge, and Albedo to prioritize dealing with other nations first, before directly drawing the potential wrath of powerful players through espionage and infiltration on themselves. It's also important to consider that Ainz Ooal Gown, the guild that is, was relatively unpopular in Yggdrasil Online, simply because it was a player-killing guild composed of heteromorph players. This could mean that even simple visits, for example by Sebas and Solution, to this very nation might have been perceived as an aggressive or hostile act by any potential players there. And as mentioned, if Ainz's fears had been come true, this carefulness would have paid off. But even later, when Ainz Ooal Gown was in the Elven Kingdom, he clearly stated, or rather thought, that he would prefer to avoid any conflict and unnecessary diplomatic tension with Slane. The only reason he decided to infiltrate the Elven King's palace was to plunder the loot in the very palace before the Theocracy of Slane had the chance to do so, thus denying them valuable and potentially quite powerful and dangerous items. After all, Ainz had already seen, with the sword razor edge that is, that there were indeed powerful and potentially valuable items in other kingdoms, even if the kingdom and the king himself is quite weak. However, just being faster than the Theocracy was by no means intended as a public provocation, but rather as a covert mission to claim potentially valuable items for himself, and not leave them to other countries that could, in the far future, potentially become a threat. Ainz's attitude to avoid conflicts with Slane only changed when Ainz Ooal Gown read Zeshi Zetsumai's mind, and now knew that the Black Scripture, and therefore the Theocracy, was behind the attack on the Blood-Red Valkyrie. And what Ainz thought about the attackers of Sheltir, or what he intended to do with them, we learned in Volume 8, in the conversation with Cocytus, because Ainz Ooal Gown did not want to fight an eye for an eye. As Cocytus had pointed out, because that concept limits revenge, but Ainz wanted to take excessive revenge, and Albedo was rarely as frightened as when Ainz Ooal Gown issued her orders after learning what the Black Scripture did and who Shelty's attackers were. In other words, any restraint Ainz once had, any thoughts of peaceful coexistence, are gone now, for Ainz wants the most extreme and excessive revenge. And finally, to lighten the mood, here's a fun fact. Ainz Ooal Gown was mistaken for a citizen of the Theocracy due to his 3-word-long name. When he was mentioned by his name by Henry to the guards of Irantel in the 8th novel. So just like Nigun Gritluin or Antilene Heran Foch, Ainz Ooal Gown would have fit right in with the naming scheme of Slane. And with that said, I say thank you very much for watching. Be sure to let me know what your thoughts about this video and the topic it covers are, and while you type, I also want to say my special thanks to Arder Daddy Arder, ASK, Bad Guy Ye, Bad Burrito 316, Beezer, Ben C, Brandon D, Chrissy, Crowley 0221, Sia, Crystal Prime, Dead Slime, Death is Mercy, Deathless Dragonlord, Demon Xenomorph 1987, Devin Downen, Ding Dong, Dragonlord Placido Saxophone, Duckwagon, Dunkler Krieger, Dystopia, Dystopia II, Enigmatic Unicorn, Feral Shivan, Guy with That Hat, Hector Marino, Hoss, Huster, Jacob G, Jana B, Jason, J. Morris, Chromius, Kyle R, Lee K. Long, Legendarius, Lelouch Britannia Viffy Mustache, Lexus Fox, Lord Nishikian Rai, Lord Touch Me, Loverazor, Mervek, Mr. Shoes, Mr. Tweaker, Michael R, Michael Y, Nope, Oh Hell No, Normal Toad, Okill, Overlord General Gasper, Paddy Pantum, Personage, Primus 11, Rhinomere, Q&A Caracos P, Shergox's Daddy, Shadow Lightning Wolf, Shrinekeeper, Super Tier Magic Batista Bomb, Supreme Cheese, Staris, Ted, Texas Deer, The Orc Warboss, Rocket Smasher, T.E. Wang, Vash Hawkeye, Vegito 27, Venture Fanatic, Wilhelm, Xenokai, and Zonegon. Thanks guys. Anyway, have a nice day, and I hope to see you all again soon on my next video.